Well, welcome to Enquire, the show that aims to bring people together from across a wide range of different worldviews and interests in order to explore ideas and share life together. I'm your host, Jez Field, and today's guest is none other than my good friend, Dr. Paul Frost, who is an honorary fellow at the University of Brighton and an expert in industrial relations. He's interested in how people deal with work, and he's also the editor of a website called workinwords.net, which we'll come onto in time. Welcome, Paul. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Jez.
Now, Paul, you and I, Enquire exists because of you and I really wanting to have further conversations about life and explore some ideas together. Paul and I met several years ago now on something called the Alpha Course, which is a series of evenings aimed at encouraging people to explore the meaning of life through the lens of the Christian faith. Paul, I don't think you'd describe yourself as an atheist, but you'd certainly say that you don't believe in the same God that I do. Paul has a number of theories about who and what or might be God, if there is such a thing. And actually, Paul, on a subsequent occasion, it'd be great to get you to come and we'll have an episode talking about your theory on God, which would be fantastic.
That would be good.
Yeah, but certainly Paul and I come from different perspectives and different points of view. I'm a Christian pastor. Paul's a doctor in industrial relations. I'm a Christian. Paul isn't a believer in a personal God. And yet today, on today's show, Paul, I've specifically asked you to come and talk to us about something that you have discussed with us before on Enquire. For the past few years, we've met monthly in the pub and over pints of beer, although you have tea with milk and no sugar, because you're a good Yorkshireman. You from Yorkshire?
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what's called in my the Associated Republic of South Yorkshire.
Okay. Got to clarify that. I wouldn't want to insult you or Yorkshiremen if you weren't to be associated with them. Over the years, as we've sat in pubs and talked about theories of different things, one of the things that you've shared is from your love of work. You've talked about how people in monotonous workplaces have learned to structure time in order to make the monotony of whatever job they're doing slightly more bearable. And given that so many of us are into forced quarantine at the moment and experiencing our own form of monotony, or if not monotony, we're experiencing the loose-ended nature of our time, which creates quite a lot of uncertainty and anxiety. I was talking to Amy, my wife, and just saying we have very few memories of the last 2 or 3 months because there's been very few markers in our weeks that have helped us to separate time from one another. And I know you're interested in the subject of time generally.
I am. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a long-winded introduction. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Before we do that, before we get you to crack open that subject of time and structuring of time, Paul, we're going to ask every guest on the show to answer the question for us. What has been your life's greatest discovery to date? And you can answer that however you want. What's been your life's greatest discovery?
Yeah, greatest discovery. You know, with me, Jez, as we've shared on many occasions, the people are asking me questions, I'm thinking, what is behind this question? So I find myself thinking, I dissect it and I can't stop myself from doing it. So before I try and give you any kind of answer, I'll tell you what happens in my head. You tell me what's the greatest discovery. I think, does he mean the most important, or does he mean the most impactful? Or does he mean the most memorable, or the most fulfilling, or the most insightful? What is he after here? And then, does he really mean discovery, or does he actually mean the best moment of my life, or the most significant lesson I've ever had? And
you're not prone to overthink things, are you?
And I know you were simply saying, Paul, talk to me at the beginning. This is supposed to be an easy question to get you started, wasn't it? And there you find the academic starting to dissect even the early softball introductions.
Icebreakers are lost on you, aren't they?
They take a long time. But I guess what I would say, I've three areas come to mind, actually. One would be in the world of business. A significant thing I think I discovered is that it's an obvious thing in a way, but everybody's people. Those who are senior, those who are junior, they're all people. They've all got families, they've all got problems, they've all got fears, they've all got anxieties, they've all got things they want to achieve. And if you're talking about your boss, yeah, you can think they're horrible and this, but you can think, you know, at one level, they're just human and they happen to have got that position. On the other hand, if you're looking at people who work for you inside the organization, they're human too. When they go home, they've got families and they've got troubles and they've got and so one of the things that's really I found in business useful to understand is that very fact, that the people around you are human, and when they leave, they go to their own world, and the two are often not separate. That's one thing that occurred to me.
I mean, that right there, we could just have a whole podcast unpacking some more of those thoughts, because I find that fascinating. On the one hand, how we learn to cope with and accept hierarchy, because that's very difficult for us.
Yes.
To live in hierarchies and to live under people over us. But part of how we can do that, like you said, is to humanize them and realize that they're like us. That's a great discovery.
I think, you know, if you look each position in the hierarchy, if you say, what do I want from those who are more senior to me? You say, I want them to respect me. I want them to treat me, give me responsibility, allow me to do other things. If you look down at those who report to you, what you want them to do, well, you want them to use their initiative. You want them to come forward with suggestions. You want them to develop ideas. And you sit there in the middle of this hierarchy thinking of things that you want those above you to do and those below you to do. But in fact, if you transpose that slightly and then you just shift all the words up, they're all the same. The guy above you wants you to do what you want people below you to do. And the people below you want the same thing of you as you want from your boss. They want more autonomy. They want more respect. They want more. Why would they not want what you want? And that this kind of shifting of the hierarchy, it certainly helped me deal with people who I work in a team with, if you like, who on an organizational hierarchy would work for me. So that sense of just treating them as people. Yeah. And they've got gas man that needs to come, or the carpet fitter needs to come, or the children are sick. And if you just give people some space to deal with those life issues, I don't think I have in my managerial career been treated shabbily by more than 0.5% of the people. They all respond, they stay later, they come early when they can, they work hard, they're more dedicated, you people become part of the family of the team. So that was the thing in business.
Really good.
If we have time, two more about you wanted to know about me was in so simple things in family. I think for me, family is the bedrock of it all, really. I mean, I find myself blessed, which is, I understand not everybody is.
Do you mean the word blessed, Paul, as an atheist?
I meant it in your terms, Jez.
Sorry, that's a cheap,
I hand you something to.
You hand me
I am well handled. I am in a very fortunate position of having parents still alive and nearby, and children and grandchildren, and it provides a great bedrock for times of uncertainty for me. And finally, something I discovered with you that I thought. And it's only in articulation for me, really, that it outs. And that is, I have a pretty clear sense of what the purpose and meaning of life are. And that came from, in fact, a completely contraposition to yours. But it was, I don't know if it was a discovery, but it was in conversation with you, the formulation of, by externalizing it, a set of thoughts, which have continued to be refined in conversation with you and others in the Enquire group, which is really quite comforting.
Wow. So, and that third one there, I think it would be certainly good to spend a whole podcast talking about together. But even just how you arrived at that, for me, that's why we have conversations like this, isn't it? Because we discover things in conversation with one another, actually processing the world externally in a group. Even when we're talking to people who have contrary positions to us, we discover great things of huge importance. And so 3 things there. Every person's a person in the workplace. Family is key. And the third one we're going to kind of leave hanging by the sounds of it until we come back together. But the meaning of life.
Yes. But I think I would just, in all of them, as an extrovert, I understand things by externalizing them, by verbalizing them. I am not an introvert. I'm not the kind of person who sits and quietly reflects and thinks. I understand what I think when I've said it. And then I need permission from my interlocutors to be able to withdraw it, because it's like, oh, no, I didn't mean that. But it's already left my mouth. And sometimes I need to pull back or take my foot out of it.
I mean, you are remarkably good at being able to frame your thoughts into very precise language quite quickly. Whenever we have conversations as a group in the pub, you are remarkably good at being able to give a reply to someone's position just by taking a few notes and then succinctly coming up with quite a concisely put and precise argument. And that is quite a rare gift as well. People often comment when they come to our group for the first time in the pub, they're like, Paul is incredible. He's got this amazing brain. I'm like, I know. He does have an amazing brain.
No, well, I'll share it. It's a technique. It's practice.
Okay. Is this going to be number 4? Fourth greatest discovery?
Okay, fourth greatest one, yeah.
All right, well, so we'll leave that one hanging for another time as well. Let's come on to this subject of time and structuring time and the importance and significance of that. Why people structure time? What do we even mean by structuring our time? From your observation as a human being, but or as an industrial relations expert from the world of work. So, Paul, share us your thesis or thought.
Well, I'd share with you, actually, Jez, a story from a piece of research and with a couple of things about this. This research is quite old now. But still it holds constructs and principles which I think transcend time and transcend different industrial settings. So I offer it to you as an early study with those principles. And it was done by a fellow called Donald Roy, and a very famous one in my world. He called his article Banana Time. And it's a rather curious title for an academic piece. But and here's the reasons succinctly put, and then we perhaps could discuss them, is in working in an industrial setting that was extremely monotonous work, he discovered that what he experienced, first of all, was laughing, noise, joking, a whole set of antics going on around him in a cacophony of all kind of behaviors that made no sense. And suddenly, however, something clicked for him, which started to unfold two key principles. One was the concept of times, and the other was the concept of themes. The concept of times arose because of something rather crazy. If you weren't there, you'd really think that people were not sensible. And that every day, Sammy used to bring a banana to work. And every day, Ike used to steal it. And in all the time that Roy worked there, and he was the kind of piece of industrial espionage in a way, he was working in industrial anthropology, as you might say. He'd taken the job to understand how it worked. In all that time, Sammy never ate his banana. Ike ate it every day. And the routine was the same. Sammy would put it in his lunchbox. Ike would go over to the lunchbox, steal it, run around. Sammy would protest. Ike would eat it. Done. And it would occur in the middle of the cacophony. But as you might imagine, Roy saying, this is rather curious. And which set him off to thinking and watching as the day went by. And what he discovered was that in addition to what he called banana time, there was Coke time. That's when one of the team went to get the Coke from the Coke machine for the 4 or 5 people employed in this little unit. At another point in the day, there was fish time, when the lead guy, George, used to bring in some smoked fish every day and ceremoniously open it and eat it. There was peach time, when one of the guys used to bring in some fruit. There was pickup time, which was the only time when a guy used to come from outside their little unit. And their job, Jez, was completely stupefyingly boring. Basically, they were making key fobs or the equivalent, and their job was simply to pick up one of 1,000 pieces, put it into a stamping machine and stamp it like this all day. And so in the middle of this, he noticed, and these things occurred at the same time, in the same order, every day.
Wow.
And you could imagine them happening. Alongside of those, themes existed. And the theme is simply that every time somebody mentions, let's try and put it into the UK context of football, somebody mentions Manchester United, everybody says exactly the same thing this time as they said last time. The conversation just goes around and everybody puts in the same order, the same theme goes ahead. And this all gets blended together in a way, unless you dissect it as an industrial anthropologist, as he did, you may not detect it's there, but it is playing an absolutely crucial part in helping these workers get through the day. Because what they're doing behind this is generating for themselves what grandly became called short-run production targets. Self-design. Now, let's debunk the grandness of that scale and go, I might say, I'm going to do 100 reds, and then I'll do 100 greens. And it was just to mark it up. Otherwise, you're looking at an endless 8 to 10 hour shift of simply doing the same routinized thing. But the times and the themes and the production targets help you get through it. And the significance of it, in one last thought, Jez, was when Roy was naughty in a way, he tinkered around with one of the themes. And this theme was called George's daughter's marriage theme. And the essence of this was, George was the senior guy and he used to get paid, I don't know, 10 pence an hour more, and everybody deferred to George. And everybody deferred to him because he got more money. But Roy, the anthropologist, thought, maybe it's because his daughter was going to marry an academic, a lecturer. And so he played around with it by saying to Sammy, hey, Sammy, I think I saw George's future son-in-law. He teaches hairdressing. Could you check it with George, see if he teaches hairdressing? So Sammy says, yeah. So Sammy keeps teasing George about that. George is getting crosser and crosser and crosser. Until at one point, he shouts out some industrial expletive, which sends the whole place freezes. George is clearly very cross. Conversations stopped. Most of the times stopped. And Roy reports what he refers to as the beast of monotony fell upon us all. My arms felt like lead. My back started breaking. None of which he'd really been aware of whilst engaging in the themes and watching the times go by. Stripped out of the day following this attack on George, which was all, you can imagine, in the craziness of an industrial place. But the significance of it was just momentous. The days became endless again, unpunctuated by the hour. Now, subsequently, and I'll pause in a minute, but I think, and it would be interesting for your listeners to send you, if they've got any of them, these exist in many other places, in service sectors, in banking, in churches. People talk about the coffee run, the bun run, the coffee machine, all manner of things that people put them in. If you think of radio programs, almost all radio programs will play you their tune for the day about every hour, or the number one hit, whatever it is. And they too, so they play it because people need an endless 8 to 10 hour openness is too long. People want it to be marshaled through in a way which is a time scale that they can envisage and just get through. And there's a lot of evidence beyond the craziness of Donald Roy and his team about that, which indicates monotony needs to be broken up. And therefore, to come right back to your point, and that which an increasing number of people who have gone to work regularly have now been furloughed or put on short time. They are experiencing that now in their homes. And there is a need to put structure in. I think as human beings, we need that structure. But anyway, that's the story of where it all comes from and how the times of work.
Superb, Paul, and just there's so much in there to chew on and think about. I think you're absolutely right. Everyone even if he's just taking a monotonous part-time job for a time, you notice the patterns of what you're talking about. And as you're talking about radio presenters, I can think of what the Chris Evans breakfast show on Radio 2. He for the however long he was doing it, I don't know, 6-8 years, he played the same songs at the same time of the same day for the whole time, didn't change it. And for me, I stopped listening because of that. But people need that level of security. I guess partly it's not just about passing, if you're in a monotonous situation it is, but it's not just about passing or making sense of monotony and enduring that. It's also about bringing a level of safety and security. Rhythms help us think through that.
And you see there this notion of it's worth, and your listeners and your viewers may want to share with you a sense of the themes that they have detected in their organizations when they're in conversation with people. Jackie or Fred or Tommy or Zach, they say the same thing every time.
Yeah.
So
conversation works like that as well, though, doesn't it? That's why small talk exists, and that's why English people are renowned for talking about the weather, because you don't know where else to go. But by having a particular place, a particular thing to do, it helps. Well, Eric Byrne, a psychologist, says that moments of affirmation or structure like that help prevent our spinal cords from shriveling, because when we feel unloved and uncared for, and as though we're not seen, we actually wither. But having some level of structure to even how we interact with one another helps strengthen us against the effects of not feeling heard or seen or known, the insecurity. I guess in part it's dealing with insecurity. So it's just interesting that as human beings we are rhythm, time, theme making beings.
Yes.
And I guess in a post-industrial society like ours, you see that in the workplace in a large degree, because we spend so much of our time there, and many of us in boring, repetitive jobs. So much I want to get your thoughts on.
It's an interesting thing about time, Jez, just a reminder cut across you, is if the two things often things about work is the number of things you have to do and whether you control those, the order in which you have to do these things, and whether in fact you control those. And if you have a lot of things to do and you have a lot of control over how and when you do them, that's very different to having one thing to do that you have to do all day, or even 10 things, but you must do them in an order. And and that plays upon how people interact with the very act of working, and therefore the connection with control, how much people feel controlled at work, and therefore how much time people will in some ways try to steal because it's controlled. They'll walk the long way around to the toilet, or when they're taking their papers up to see John upstairs, they'll take the back stairs and they'll stop by and see Mary.
It feels free, doesn't it? It feels like it's your time when you do that. Like, oh, I've won a victory. Like, you remember,
won a victory.
I'm going to do this. I'm like, I'm free for this moment in time.
I am in control of the route I take. Whereas when you're outside of work, you may end up frittering hours and hours away. Yeah. Whereas when you're in somebody else's control of it, it can be very long.
And in part, there's an element, isn't there, where you're trying to do things to make time pass quicker, because the clock seems to go laboriously slowly. So if you can break up 1,000 different color badges into sections of 200 at a time, then you go, oh, I've done an hour because I know it takes me an hour to do this much. And I'm closer to the end of my day. It must be really very depressing to have to do that every day, to wake up and think, I've got to find ways of getting through this day and then this week and then this month and then this year.
The other interesting thing about our COVID experience in this of time is the number of people who've moved to home working and how much control that has given them. They've got to do their job, but when you're in the office, people often feel like obliged to arrive at 7, arrive early feels committed, stay late feels committed. Whereas if you're working from home, as we know not everybody can, but an increasing number of people have, then, some people get up and do their work very early in the morning, and then they go for a run, and then they come back and they have a casual breakfast, and then they go back to work again at 10 o'clock. And then they'll have on a various days, they might go pick up the kids for a lunch and then work hard in the afternoon and work into the evening. That flexibility, that control, that this home working, flexible, autonomous working while still providing the organization what it wants, I think will yield very positive results for people for organizations, because on that side of it, it's giving people control. I think people are, although missing social interaction. I know someone who's just started a job, and they've started the job which is supposed to be in an office, but as a home worker. So they're enjoying all that flexibility, but they don't know who the team are. They don't. So that there are pluses and minuses to the home working.
Yeah.
But it does help solve some of this. I've got control. I'm not completely at the behest of the machine.
So do you think greater levels of control increases productivity all the time? Or do you think actually you need to be a particularly proactive, initiative-taking individual? Or do you think actually human beings can be, if you're interested in activity, you can be trusted to be productive, because production makes you fulfilled? Is this something that would suit everybody, or is there certain types of people that actually need to be just controlled quite strongly?
That's an excellent question, Jez. Excellent question, because I think if you think back to an industrial process, if you want, even an office process, you have to make an assumption about the nature of people. And you can either conclude there are lazy, idle, good-for-nothing, inert people who simply don't want to be at work at any price and will rob you at the first instance. Or they are interesting, innovative, highly want to be engaged, stimulated people who, at their own level, want to be involved in it. And you have to take a view on it, because if you take what would be the archetypal assembly line, that exists because of a set of assumptions about people. But you design the process, and then the people have to fit in it. But in designing the process, you've had to make some assumptions about the nature of the people that you're going to employ. And then having done it, you either then have to go looking for those kind of people, or the work will turn them into those kind of people.
Yeah.
Now, people will then do all manner of almost unbelievable things to subvert that tightly controlled system that you put them into. Yeah. I happen to think that most people want to be interested, stimulated, challenged by their work at whatever that might be. It may not be this, it's not an absolute level for everyone, but relative to themselves, they want interest, they want engagement, they want involvement, they want to feel like they've achieved something at the end of the day, something has been of value to something in the world. And I think if you treat people that way, as I suggested at the outset, and if you design your processes for doing whatever it is you're doing, whether it be a church, or whether it be manufacturing or chemical production, or local government, people will engage with it at a higher level.
And it's because we are meaning-making people, and we're people who need meaning and purpose in life. And whereas a lot of people don't think that life necessarily has any intrinsic meaning, you find the meaning, people suggest. But unless you find it, life feels very hard and very heavy. It's very difficult to get out of bed and get on with activity unless you have something that you feel adds some level of meaning and purpose to what your day is doing. And it might even just be that the meaning for you is my employer trusts me and thinks I'm a responsible, creative, worthwhile human being that doesn't need to be frog marched every day down an assembly line. And that brings a sense of dignity to who you are and what you're going to do with your day.
Yes.
But it does relate to, your third point that we never came on to, the discovery about how we find meaning and how we get fulfillment in life. It's something that often for a lot of people that we have to discover it, even if you're not a philosophical type who sits around contemplating the meaning of life, until you've answered those questions of what am I here for? Why does it matter that I do this? What am I going to put my energy and strength towards? What am I going to aim at? Without stuff like that, you very quickly get quite despairing of life. All those stories of prisoners of war in the Japanese concentration camps who were just told to carry boulders from one part of the camp to the other and back again all day, and had no meaning at all. And there was a hugely high suicide rate among those prisoners because they got stripped of any sense that what they were doing had any meaning or any value. Have I chased down a wrong rabbit hole in trying to unpack the thought of
No.
meaning?
There's a concept with a very grand sounding name called anomie, which industrial sociologists have, and it talks about people have life having no purpose, no meaning, and there's nothing in your work or nothing in your life. Then people who achieve an anomic condition, it was actually discovered in a study of suicide rates, sadly. And why? Because people, as you suggested, people's lives had no meaning, and it became an anomic position. And often people, industrial sociologists, would say that work can often drive that people to feel anomic, have no purpose. Interestingly, some people, the connection often occurs between time in work and time out of work. And sometimes if people's time in work is dull and routine and monotonized, sometimes you find them as shop stewards, as chairs of the local community land trust. They compensate for the monotony and the dullness and the absence of stimulation in their work by taking on activities outside of work. On the other hand, you sometimes get, there's another view which in fact it spills over, that this routinized, this monotonized draws people in a kind of semi-mechanistic way, and the evening is therefore full of soap opera television and nights in the pub. And there's a great the group Dire Straits have a song called Industrial Disease, and the lyrics are just great. One line is 2 weeks in Hispania and Sunday striptease is part of an industrial disease of dulled, monotonized people working in routinized jobs.
I seem to remember, and I might be quoting this wrong, but Jonathan Haidt, who's a popular moral psychologist, he's written a book called The Happiness Hypothesis. And I need to dig that off the shelf and look at it after this, but I think he quotes Freud in saying that two things essentially that people need to find meaning in life is love and work. And by work, I don't think he means paid work. It is fruitful labor. Mm-hmm. And for me as a Christian, that ties very nicely with, I think, what you see in the explanatory story of the human condition in the book of Genesis, where human beings, however you understand the story, the implications are there that human beings, before the crisis that the Bible calls sin and separation from God, before that crisis, we had fruitful labor, told to steward a garden and cultivate it, which is very satisfactory work. And particularly the more you understand the significance of gardens and being able to domesticate plants, how that helps human civilizations is remarkable. But to cultivate and to add life and meaning, but also we're in relationship with our Creator. And so had an understanding of security and love with the origin of the species, the Creator. Right. And for me, at least as a Christian, I found that meaning, satisfaction, contentment isn't found necessarily in learning to love myself. It's learning to know that I am loved from the outside, but that I have also been given gifts and talents and abilities, or whatever language you want to use it, skills, interests, that when I use them, I feel fulfilled. And those two things, I mean, if you can get paid for doing the things that you enjoy, that's the money ticket right there. That's the big money ticket. But for most people, that isn't always the case. But it is that need in a human being to do something that it feels meaningful and fruitful and makes use of your uniqueness, and also to know that you're loved and appreciated, whether by God or by the people in your life, even as you said, your great discovery of family. Those two things are so key to contentment and happiness. And I guess once you've got those two things, then you find ways of coping with the monotonous and more difficult aspects of life.
Interesting word. Sorry, Desmond.
No, I would be interested to hear your reflections on that.
You use an interesting word, fulfillment. And I think I used to work in management consultancy for quite a while, and we used to run an exercise which asked people to chart their life and their key moments of success, and then chart that same life with their key moments of being fulfilled, having a full feeling, a kind of, isn't it lovely, isn't it fulfilling, isn't it content? And whilst on some occasions success brought fulfillment, on other occasions it did not. That as they became successful in their own terms, which were often in terms of hierarchical promotions, salaries, material returns,
Yeah.
whatever they were, often when they were rising, fulfillment was falling. People didn't feel fulfilled because why? They're spending less time with their children, less time with their wives, less time in their gardens, less time doing with the things that really gave them that great deal of satisfaction, because they were working to generate the material returns. Now, in some cases, I mean, and other studies would show, different points in life bring different pressures. And sometimes people have to make the sacrifices. If you think of the archetypal, it's not particularly, hopefully not too relevant anymore, but a young married male with a wife and 2 children, the male often feels under pressure to just generate the money to pay the mortgage. And that may be too stereotypical for many at this point, but it was true for a long time. And the pressure was to just earn the money, regardless of how unfulfilling and routinized and monotonized it was. There was no alternative. But in a later point in life, then it would be that.
Who's talking to you? Is that
somebody
in the background having a chat?
Somebody somewhere. Is this online? It's as we keep hearing from everybody else, it's the miraculouses of dealing with conferencing. But so the point was that at different points in life, through different life stages, people can track that fulfillment versus necessity for instrumentalism. And it's often younger married couples under great pressure, starting out in a home with young children, pay mortgages. Fulfillment often can be crushed or diminished against the instrumentalism of earning more money.
Wow. Paul, we're out of time. We haven't had much of a chance to crack open further reflections on the value and how we might structure our times to help us. It'd be lovely to get you back to have your reflections on how to cope with further lockdown measures, or how to structure your time generally to bring greater levels of fulfillment. That would be interesting to hear your thoughts on it.
I think just as we go, I think I'll just leave the listeners with the thought of they should try hard to think about, even if they write it down. It'll seem quite mechanistic at this beginning, but to say, I'm going to get up now, I'm going to have lunch now, I'm going to have afternoon tea now, I'm going to have a drink now, and it doesn't have to stay the same. But just to realize, actually, without any structure designed by oneself, the day will struggle mentally, I think. Any structure will do.
That's brilliant. Thank you. I've certainly learned that in lockdown as well. The first few weeks, I thought, I haven't got to get up for anything. I'll just get up as late as I can, and doesn't do one any good. Paul, before we go though, you are the editor of the website workingwords.net. Tell us just a little bit about that and how people might be able to engage with your work.
Well, I'm fascinated by people's, and I guess I was thinking of a phrase called my work, my words. And I'd just be interested in people giving some sense of an expression of how they feel about their work in 50 words, 100 words. Most of the people that sent right into us and submit work, it's in poetry. But it doesn't have to be poetry. It could simply be my work, my words. Here's what it feels like working. And that's what our great passion is, understand what it feels like in different work settings for people who are working. And yeah, we put those up on the website, and we have narrators who read them, and you can certainly see some really powerful reflections on what work does to people and what it means to them on the site. Yeah, workingwords.net.
Wow. And of course, we've often had this conversation. We're not really talking about work, are we? We're talking about human beings finding meaning, value, fulfillment, and purpose in their life through using their gifts, their skills, their strengths in their vocation, and being in a society like this, being forced to do things that don't always do that or help us with that, and then how people process that. We'll put the link to the website in the description of this video. Thank you so much for being with us. We're going to talk lots because you've got so much to share, and as I said, you really are the co-founder with me of this Enquire experiment, where we explore ideas and share life. And so thanks for sharing your ideas.
Thanks for asking me, Jess. Thanks for asking me.
And
Stay well.
We'll speak to you soon. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.